The handheld PC arms race marches on, but there is one frontier that really hasn't been explored all that much, that being handheld clamshells. And we're getting 2 of those this year. Can I finally put these PCs in my pocket? Both GPD and Aya Neo are releasing clamshell devices, both of which give me some serious 3DS XL vibes. I love both my 3DS and PS Vita, but let's be real, the 3DS was way more pocketable. I could close up my 3DS and stick it in my pocket without worrying about my pocket messing up the analog sticks or anything of the sort. This is the main benefit of having a clamshell. It's portable, and not just like portable in the sense that you can take it with you, it's portable in the sense that you can stick it in your pocket. Now let's first talk about the GPD Win Mini. GPD is definitely the oldest player in the PC handheld market, and their first devices were actually clamshells to begin with, and now they've returned. This is a clamshell with a full suite of controls. You've got your D-pad, face buttons, 2 analog sticks that can click in, bumpers and triggers. It's also got a gyro, trackpad, and a physical keyboard, albeit kind of small. There are differences in spec depending on which model you buy. Let's cover the more powerful model first. It's got an AMD Ryzen 7 7840U. This is supposedly equivalent to the Z1 Extreme that you can find in both the ROG Ally and Lenovo Legion Go. The 7840U also has 12 compute units and 768 shaders, and it's paired with 32GB of LPDDR5. The lower end model has a Ryzen 5 7640U, which is supposed to be equivalent to the Z1 that you can find on the lower end ROG Ally. That said, the lower end ROG Ally isn't even out yet, so we can't really compare. This lower end model has 8 compute units and 512 shaders for the GPU, and all of this is paired up with 16GB of LPDDR5 memory. So yes, the higher end model is more powerful and has more RAM, but the lower end model is, well, let's just say it's substantially cheaper. You can buy the cheaper model for $698, whereas the more expensive model can be bought for $868. Both versions come with 512GB of SSD storage by default, and yes, these are user upgradable. But get this, there's an even higher tier model that has the same 7840U, but has 64GB of RAM instead. And it comes with a 2TB SSD. This has to be overkill. I mean, my own desktop that I edit my videos on doesn't even have 64 gigs. Now that that stuff's out of the way, let's talk about the interesting stuff. Everything else. It's got a hardware keyboard. It's like a 10 keyless design, but the keys are way smaller. This will be useful for, putting your passwords in and stuff. I mean, it's probably a serviceable keyboard for typing in-game or typing on Discord or whatever, but like, I wouldn't rely on this keyboard for any serious work. Like, I could not use this thing to type an essay out to save my life. Like, seriously, if you're a poor college kid and this is your only computer somehow, then go out there and buy a keyboard for like $10 or something. It doesn't matter what it is. I guarantee you it'll probably be better for typing than this thing. But this will be serviceable for anything that isn't like serious work. The controls are interesting. It's got a full suite of controls, but I am very interested in the ergonomics of this thing. GPD also provides a grip for you that's more ergonomic and more resembles like an Xbox controller that you can slide your GPD Win Mini into. But honestly, that kind of defeats the purpose of it being clamshell. It just makes it more bulky. Both sticks are Hall effect sticks, which means they shouldn't ever drift. I like the design of the D-pad. It kind of reminds me of the Vita D-pad. Same with the buttons, honestly, but these are intangibles that I have to test out for myself. If I ever get one, that is. There's also 2 macro buttons, aptly named L4 and R4. It's also got a menu button, which I assume is the Xbox button, because as far as I'm aware, GPD doesn't actually use any custom software. Not like Aya Neo or One X or whatever. It's got a 1080p display that goes up to 120Hz. I have my reservations on running modern AAA titles at 1080p on such hardware because I'm not sure if it can handle playing these games at 1080p, to be honest. But you can always lower the resolution down to 720p. That said, none of GPD's official sources mention variable refresh rate, which is pretty important these days. As far as I'm aware, only the ROG Ally has variable refresh rate. Not even the upcoming Lenovo Legion Go has variable refresh rate. VRR should be the standard moving forward. It's got a 44.24 watt-hour battery. It's marginally better than the ROG Ally and Steam Deck's battery. And now we get to the fun stuff. All of the ports in the back. It's got a micro SD card slot, a combo audio jack, a little toggle for gamepad and mouse. It's got 2 USB Type-C ports, but they're different. One is USB 3.2 Gen 2, and the other one is USB 4. It's cool that there's multiple USB Type-C ports, but I really wish they were both USB 4 ports. And last but certainly not least, the Oculink port. You may be asking yourself, what the heck is an Oculink port? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's more or less a PCIe interconnect port, meaning you can plug in external GPUs that support Oculink. GPD is the first company to feature Oculink on their new devices, and it's pretty good. And the port itself isn't even that big, it's a lot thinner than an HDMI port. And yes, while you could use USB 4 for an external GPU, it would be better if you used Oculink. Oculink has more bandwidth, meaning your GPU is less bottlenecked. Your GPU will perform better. Should this be the new standard for external GPUs or whatever else you want to plug into it? Friend of the channel The Fox certainly makes it out to be, and honestly, I'm inclined to believe him. Now let's talk about the size, because the Fox does a lot of size comparisons for us. And yes, this is all compared to the GPD Win Mini while it's closed, because that's really when size matters the most. Let's start with the PS Vita. The PS Vita is actually wider than the GPD Win Mini, but the Win Mini is both taller and thicker than the PS Vita. The Fox also compares it to the 3DS, and wow, it's almost the same length. The 3DS is only a little bit smaller in length. And honestly, the 3DS XL is almost as tall as the Win Mini. But yes, ultimately the Win Mini is pretty thick. It's thicker than the 3DS XL for sure. Not entirely unexpected, but it's surprising how close it is in size to the 3DS XL. And last but certainly not least, the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is both taller and wider than the GPD Win Mini, but only when the Win Mini is closed, obviously. Interestingly enough, it's around the same thickness. Yes, it's way more portable than the Steam Deck, and that's really not that surprising. All in all, this is a device I'm super interested in. What more is there to say? It's a handheld with a keyboard with a full complement of controls, and I can stick this in my pocket without worrying about my pocket messing up my sticks. This is a device I'm looking out for. And for a while, it looked like this would be the only clamshell on the market. But there's a new challenger in town, and its name is the Aya Neo Flip. I really would talk more about this device, but there's barely any information on it. All we know is that it's a clamshell device with a full complement of controls and a keyboard. There's no spec sheets, and we don't even get a full-on look at the screen itself. What we can talk about though is the design, and I will say I'm not sure I'm a fan of this D-pad. It kind of looks like an Xbox 360 D-pad in like the worst way possible, because that D-pad was awful. The ergonomic back could be interesting, but I'm not sure if it's big enough to really make that much of a difference. But hey, these aren't really the best pictures. This is just like a teaser picture. Maybe they'll post more information later and we can talk about this device in a separate video. What do you guys think? If you liked this video, be sure to press the thumbs up button and spread the good gospel of high-tech lowlife. And if you want to see more high-tech lowlife, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon for notifications. And for you enlightened individuals, be sure to join my Discord server. And if you wish to support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description down below.